Hi, my name is Tim Naftali, and in about a month I will be the director of the Richard Nixon Presidential Library and Museum. I'm currently the director of the Transition Group. Like my colleague Elaine, my museum is split, though the distance between the two parts of my museum are not 160 miles, but 2,400 miles. For the next 4 years, if you want to do work on most Nixon presidential materials, 42 million pages, though no one's really counted them, you have to go to Washington, D.C. or College Park, where we have our facility. If you want to see the museum, and you want to see some of the artifact that I'm going to be discussing today, then come on out to California, to Yorba Linda, where the National Archives is taking over control of the existing private Nixon Library and making it into a nonpartisan public institution. You're all very lucky. You live near a presidential library, so some of what we're going to say to you, you already know. You all have your favorite things here, no doubt. What's beautiful about our libraries is that there's something for everyone. Think of it as a fly caught in amber, a moment of time where everything that matters can be captured in one place. Since presidents are the center of not all of our lives, but an important part of our lives, things surrounding that person can be very interesting. What I have chosen is something that is fun, because we have fun stuff in our libraries. We have cultural and social things. It's not just politics, it's also fun. This is incredible. December 1970. Elvis Presley is getting criticized by his wife Priscilla for spending too much on their credit card. It's almost Christmas time. Elvis is a very generous man, known to spend lots of money on his friends. In fact, if you were a friend of Elvis, you could probably get yourself a Cadillac. Elvis is spending too much money, and Priscilla takes his credit card, or most of his credit cards, away from him. He is upset. He decides, I'm Elvis Presley. I'm going to decide what I do with my money. So he said, I'm going to leave. He dressed himself up in one of his costumes from a Las Vegas event. Phenomenal costume. A black velvet cape and a huge belt buckle that was given to him by the International Hotel, where he had apparently played before the largest audience ever in Las Vegas. He put these clothes on and decided he was going to fly to Los Angeles. He gets on an American plane. Imagine, Elvis Presley just walks on with no retinue. None of his bodyguards are with him. Nobody. Just Elvis. Gets on the plane, lands in Los Angeles. Just before getting onto the plane, he calls his buddy who lives in Los Angeles, and he says, Jerry, and Jerry had worked for him for years. He wasn't working for him anymore. He was working for Paramount Pictures at that point. He says, Jerry, I'm coming to Los Angeles. And Jerry says, well, where's Priscilla? Oh, she's not coming. What about the Colonel? Well, he's not coming. Well, what about another bodyguard? No. You mean you're alone, Elvis? Yes. Are you okay? I'm fine. Meet me there, and make sure Sir Edward comes. Sir Edward, well, his name was Edward. He wasn't knighted, but he had once driven, or he said he once drove, Winston Churchill. So Elvis always called him Sir Edward, and he was Elvis's driver in Los Angeles. So Elvis gets on the plane. Can you imagine what it must have been like for the people on the plane who saw him? He was wearing his Las Vegas costume. He arrives in Los Angeles. It's late that night. Sir Edward is there. Jerry is there. Jerry bundles him into the car, takes him to Jerry's home, and says, Elvis, who in the world knows that you're here, other than the hundreds of people who probably saw him at the airport? He says, nobody. He said, well, this is absolutely crazy. And of course, Jerry's thinking, my God, I can't be responsible for the well-being of the king. So he says, we've got to let people know. I've got to call Priscilla. He says, oh, I don't know. So they sleep on him. The next morning, he says, Elvis says, I got a great idea. I'm not going to go back to Memphis. I know where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to Washington. He says, why do you want to go to Washington? He says, I'm going to go to Washington, and you're going to come with me. He said, Elvis, I can't come with you. I got a job. He said, no, you're coming with me. So he's thinking, I've got to protect Elvis. So the two of them get on a plane. They get on an American Airlines plane, and Elvis is sitting in the front with this man, Jerry Schilling, and the flight attendant during the flight comes up, still wearing this fantastic Las Vegas costume. She comes up and she says, there's a senator in coach. Those are the days when senators flew in coach. There's a senator in coach named Senator George Murphy, senator from California. he understands you're on the plane. He'd like to meet you. So Elvis goes back and chats with Senator Murphy, and then goes back to the front and says, Jerry, I have this idea. I'm going to go and see Richard Nixon. I've got to talk to the president about drug abuse. I've just got to talk to him about drug abuse. I absolutely have to talk to him about drug abuse. The young people of this country respect me. I can get through to them. So he says, Jerry, get me some paper. So Jerry asked the flight attendant, those were in the days when they would give you things on planes. So he asked the flight attendant, could you give us some paper? And on this paper, Elvis Presley wrote a letter to Richard Nixon. It was American Airlines paper. We have this letter, which I am told is more valuable than any other document in our collection, aside from two other documents called the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, although I'm not convinced about the Constitution. But anyway, Elvis writes this letter, which is a 5-page letter, and with handwriting that school teachers will recognize from grade 5 kids. But it's wonderful, talking about how he thinks he can communicate with the public and all that. And then he ends with this page, which I wanted to show you. Elvis then decides that Richard Nixon needs his telephone numbers. Remember, this is before cell phones, so this is really impressive. Look at all of his various telephone numbers. And the name of the hotel where he's expecting to stay, and the fact that his alias, when Elvis Presley traveled, he didn't travel as Elvis Presley, he traveled as John Burroughs. So this is a letter that includes his alias and all of his telephone numbers. Now, if you're President of the United States, do you expect to be making all of these telephone calls? Do you expect to be looking for celebrities in hotels under aliases? Doesn't matter. Elvis was convinced he would be seen by Richard Nixon. So they arrive in Washington, D.C., and they go straight to the White House. Honest to God, this is what happened. Jerry Schilling has done an oral history for us. He's described it in detail. They arrive at the White House. It's late at night. It's early in the morning. They arrive at the White House. Elvis is there. He comes out in his costume, walks up to the front door, and wants to deliver the letter to the Secret Service. This letter. Look at him, and they think he's a hoodlum. Remember, this is early in the morning, and he's wearing a Las Vegas costume. You don't usually see those outside of lounges. There is a scuffle, and the bodyguard has to come out and say, "Gentlemen, this is Elvis Presley." And it was when they saw his walking stick with the pearl on top that they realized, oh my God, this guy's either a king or deserves to be in a mental institution. One moment, please, Mr. Presley. They confer. They said, Mr. Presley, we'll have to take your letter in. Go to the hotel. He says, that's fine. I have the number on the letter. He went to the hotel and wait to hear from us. Now, of course, the bodyguard says, there's no way White House is going to call. That's not how you get, by the way, if you ever want an appointment at the White House, trust me, this is not the way to do it. The call comes in. The president, for reasons I can't go into right now, decides, because one of his aides knows who Elvis Presley is, the president doesn't really know who he was, decides he's going to see him. And so Elvis Presley gets a chance to meet with Nixon. And one of the most famous photographs in the National Archives system is of the king and the president. Well, this letter was part of the process that made that possible. And we're fortunate enough to have it. There are lots of cool things like this at our libraries. One of the things you will discover is that everybody in this room is there to serve you. Just ask. Send us an email. Write us a note. Call us. We work for you. Thank you very much.